All hail the king in this episode of Battle Guides featuring Alexian, the dynastic king of Jeffries. Alexian is a king you wouldn't want to mess with. With his mighty sword, he'll crush opponents that stand in his way. He uses his kingly defense to shrug off opponents' attacks and then smack them down a few notches. And when sheer force is not enough, this dynastic king has a few nasty tricks up his sleeve. However, his kingly chivalry won't let him beat down on defenseless opponents. As such, his unique ability actually makes opponents stronger to keep an even playing field. And Alexian, unlike most juggernauts, actually requires a lot of precision to use and is very susceptible to being card locked. Alexian's unique ability is Chivalry. Whenever he hits opponents, before any other on-hit effects activate, Alexian gives the opponent a Chivalry token, up to a maximum of 3. Opponents may ante these tokens for power +1 and priority +1 each. Unlike many characters, Alexian's unique ability doesn't benefit himself. It actually benefits his opponents to keep an even playing field. As Alexian, however, it's still very important to remember your unique ability, because 1 point of priority or 1 point of power could spell the difference between you getting stunned and you smacking the opponent for 8 damage. There's not much else to explain here. However, there are ways for you to benefit from your unique ability. We'll go over those later on. Most of Alexian's power comes from his styles, and in a little while, you'll see why his unique ability is the way it is. For a Juggernaut, Alexian has some pretty nasty tricks up his sleeve. Not only does Mighty give him Soak 1 and Stun Guard 2, it also provides him positive priority and the ability to ignore opponents' range modifiers on styles. Due to his amazing brawling capabilities, opponents will often try to form a gap between him and themselves. Pair this attack with a shot and make them regret doing that. Ignoring range modifiers means that only shots will hit from that range. As an added bonus, Alexian's positive priority means he'll outspeed and outstun other shots. For a Juggernaut, Alexian is also pretty mobile. When he's far from his opponent and his shot is down, he can make use of his most amazing style, Stalwart. Its before activating effect allows Alexian to advance up to 3 spaces, giving most of his bases an effective range +0 to 3. Not only that, he gains power +1 for each space he advances, up to a maximum of power +3, giving this style a net power +4. And not only that, but it gives him Stun Guard 5, making it nearly impossible for him to get stunned. Quite frankly, if this wasn't on Alexian, I'd call it utterly broken. But since it is, it's really amazing, and most opponents will try to dash it. So be wary if opponents have dash in their hand, but the moment they put it down, go crazy. Note, however, that you can't switch sides with opponents using the before activating effect. As such, I don't recommend using this style in melee range. Regal adds an entirely new dimension to Alexian's game plan because it allows him to ignore the effects of Chivalry tokens on the beat Regal is played. Oftentimes, opponents will try to compensate for slow attacks or weak attacks by anteing Chivalry tokens to them. This is where Regal's specific stats come in. The positive priority allows Alexian to swoop in and smack opponents before they even realize that their Chivalry is not working. Also, it still has Stun Guard 3 even with positive priority. This means it's an even safer play as opponents might not have enough power to stun you without the Chivalry tokens. As an added bonus, this attack prevents opponents at range 1 from retreating, allowing you to stick to opponents and making it easier for Alexian to hit. Just Thought is an amazing style if you want to stick to your opponents. It allows Alexian to shrug off any attacks that let the opponent move him. It also has a start to beat advance up to 1 space, allowing him to perform the corner cross and dash opponents who are at range 4, which is invaluable. Add both of that to the fact that it has Stun Guard 3 and Power Plus 2, and Gestalt becomes invaluable when you want to close the gap or when you want to maintain that melee range. Another way for Alexian to deal with ranged opponents comes in the form of Stealed. You see, Stealed gives Alexian soak for every unoccupied space between him and his attacker. He may then advance a number of spaces equal to the amount of damage that he soaked that beat. This style has its uses from range as it allows Alexian to soak damage and close the gap in one fell swoop. However, note that it only gives you soak if opponents are not next to you. As such, it has little to no uses at melee range unless paired with a specific base. As with Gestalt, this gives Alexian Power Plus 2, easily crushing opponents if they get hit by it. And we end with the scariest base in all of Devastation, Divider. Not only does it have a base power of 4, it also has stun immunity and soak 2. Quite frankly, this is the sole reason why opponents don't want to stay close to Alexian. However, it does have the drawback of giving your opponent a Chivalry token no matter what. So if you hit, you'll be giving him 2, and if you miss, he'll still get 1 anyway. So be careful when using it, as Divider is just basically a mighty sword swing and misses quite often. However, paired with his hit confirm styles, this attack turns into a crazy thing to deal with. Stealed, Stalwart, and Regal all come to mind when playing this base, so don't forget that. Alexian's 2 Overdrive finishers are Hail the King and Empire Divider. Hail the King is basically an upgraded version of the Stalwart style. It has range 1, power 0, and priority 0, but it does pack Soak 6 and a before activating effect that allows Alexian to advance up to 5 spaces. The kicker here is that Alexian gains power plus 1 for each point of damage he soaks, and each space he advances using the before activating effect. If you get all of that, it deals 11 damage. That's crazy. Oftentimes you'll use this against rangers who are far away from you, so you get to make use of that before activating advance up to 5. Note that you can switch sides with opponents using this before activating effect. As such, you can gain that extra power by switching sides if the opponent is at range 5 instead of range 6. Use that to your advantage. Empire Divider, on the other hand, is an upgraded version of the Divider base. It has range 1 to 2, power 7, priority 2, stun immunity, and soak 4. This makes it one of the best trading overdrives in the game. However, like the Divider base, it has the drawback in giving your opponent even more Chivalry tokens. As such, I heavily suggest using it against characters who want to be close, and I only suggest using it if the hit will kill the opponent. Be wary though, as a simple burst will make you miss. Like Karen and Jaeger, Alexian benefits from every single possible option his special action gives him. He can use Hail the King against ranged opponents, he can use Empire Divider against melee opponents, he can cancel to get rid of that pesky opponent style as he still is a juggernaut, and he can use Pulse to get into melee range. Aside from being a king, Alexian is also a tacticianer and great general. As such, know when and which special actions you'll be using. Do him proud. Now, most people think that just because Alexian's a juggernaut, he has no advanced strategies. And that's partly true, because Alexian doesn't actually have a lot of intricate nuances and interactions between his styles and his bases. However, his unique ability is what makes using Alexian so hard, because you have to trick your opponents into anteing the Chivalry tokens during unopportune times. You see, Alexian doesn't like dealing with the Chivalry tokens, contrary to popular belief. As such, I do suggest dashing quite often, especially if the opponent has a lot of Chivalry tokens in their token pool. Also, don't forget Regal. Regal allows Alexian to ignore the Chivalry tokens for this speed, effectively allowing Alexian to make most Chivalry tokens useless when used in conjunction with dash. Alexian is all about positioning. Unlike other juggernauts, Alexian actually has a lot of options when it comes to which attacks he wants to play. However, the problem comes from the fact that his styles are separated into two. Some are only useful when in melee range, and some are only useful when far away from the opponent. This is what makes Alexian easily card locked. As such, Alexian also needs to learn to disengage with bursts and dashes if he does not have any viable plays in his hand. And with that, let's go over some useful combos that most Alexians will love to do. Number 1, first and foremost, let's get this out of the window, it's Steel Divider. I don't even have to explain this attack, but I will anyway. It has Sun Guard 5, Soak 2, and Stun Immunity. That's overkill. It basically allows Alexian to trade positively most of the time. And if you advance the full 3 spaces, this attack has 8 power with Soak 2. The only way you could ever lose is if the opponent causes you to miss via dash or some other effect, or if he hits you for more than 10 damage in a single beat. That rarely ever happens. This attack is basically dash bait. If the opponent has dash in their hand, don't play this attack quite often. But the moment they put it down, use it. Use it, use it, use it, use it. There is barely anything that will beat this attack. In contrast to Stalwart Divider, Steel Divider is rarely predicted by opponents. Steel isn't really that useful at melee range, as it has no defenses. So the best way to compensate for that is to pair it with the base with the most defenses. Note that this basically allows Alexian to deal with almost every single attack an opponent can play, even bursts. Remember that Steel allows Alexian to advance 1 space for each point of damage he soaked. It does not necessarily have to come from Steel's passive effect, which means that you can use Divider's Soak to give Steel movement even if the opponent is in melee range. Literally nothing outside of a dash can dodge this attack, so use it wisely. And we end with Regal Grasp. Regal Grasp is the fastest attack Alexian can play with priority 6. Oftentimes you'll use this when predicting the opponent's Chivalry token antis, and with that 6th priority, you'll most oftentimes go first, stunning the opponent with that 3 damage. And even then, if the opponent is still faster than you, Regal's Stun Guard compensates for that and still allows Alexian to hit if the opponent deals 3 or less damage. And that's pretty much most of the things you guys need to know when playing Alexian, the dynastic king of Jeffries. And if you plan on being chivalrous on the battlefield, remember these few last-minute tips. Number 1, don't forget your unique ability. Alexian always has to manage his opponent's Chivalry tokens, making them waste the tokens on Regals and dashes, or always considering them when playing your attacks. As opponents can randomly have more power than they usually have, they can sometimes break through the immense amount of stun guard that Alexian usually packs, so be wary about that. Number 2, Stalwart. Always abuse Stalwart's prediction pressure. Opponents will always try and be wary of that attack, so use that to your advantage. When they think you're gonna Stalwart, play another attack, and when dash is down, play Stalwart and make them regret playing dash on the wrong turn. And finally, your positioning. Alexian has a limited amount of options at range and a limited amount of options in melee. Depending on your hand, it might be beneficial for you to dash or burst out of the range, or drive or dash into the range that your hand wants you to be in. And that pretty much does it for this episode of Battle Guides featuring King Alexian. the dynastic king of Jeffries. Remember, if you guys liked the video or if this video got you interested in the game, put some comments down there and check out the links because they'll bring you to the Level 99 Games website where you can buy the game. And it can also bring you to the World of Indines website where you can come and meet all of us and meet me with a really nice community, and we're happy to have more battlers on our side. And remember guys, this holiday season, don't forget your special action. Thank you and good night.